obsess over one goal for like years at a time, you might accomplish it.
Yeah, you can frequently get that thing basically no matter who you are. Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. If you are listening to this right now, know that you have created this opportunity for yourself. You're listening exactly to the podcast you need to hear right at this moment.
You went to bed Saturday night thinking, I want there to be a new episode of Boys Bible Study. I want there to be a new episode of Boys Bible Study.
Yes. And that power of positive thinking worked out. Like we all sort of like fucking zombified rose from whatever we were doing. Like Julian walked out of his apartment not even using the front door. He just like crashed Kool-Aid Man style through the wall and like hobbled his way over here.
There is a delay effect on it though, because otherwise the three of us would show up instantly in your apartment.
We're actually recording a podcast that someone manifested for us like 7 months ago. But I'm glad that message did finally get to us because it's very important.
Honestly, it's been a few weeks since we said we were going to do this.
That's true. We did kind of manifest it on
That's
delay.
true.
Well,
that said, I don't even remember recording this right now.
No, I don't.
Well, Scott, the entity known as Scott, is speaking through you.
Yes. Well, I as always, speaking through us today, I am the entity known as Ash. I'm here with
the entity known as Scott.
And the entity known as Julian.
You know, it's really funny, you guys. When I was moving to my apartment, I was going through my boxes, and my beautiful son was saying, Daddy, what do you keep in this box? And I said, that's my vision board box, honey. And I opened it up, and I saw a perfectly photorealistic charcoal pencil sketch I made of the three of us sitting down and recording this podcast episode together. And I didn't even know who you guys were at that point. Isn't that freaking cool?
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
Cool. Massive blast of energy came out of your dome.
Yeah. And I took the deepest fantasy from within myself, which is that I'd eventually make more than one friend. And now, look, I've made 2 friends. And we get to talk into microphones together.
Incredible.
Yeah. My deepest, darkest wish has come true.
Yeah.
And that's the power of The Secret.
Real quick, how old was that guy when he said he made that drawing of his house? Did you say he was like 5 years old or something?
I don't think it was that. I don't remember.
No, it was 5 years beforehand. And he had completely forgotten that he had picked out that picture and moved into that exact same house.
Yeah. The picture just happened to be a real estate listing for that house.
Right.
Yeah.
And he forgot about it. He said that was he bought his dream house without him even realizing it. That was the premise of his story.
One morning, about 7:30 in the morning, my son comes into my office, and one of the boxes that was sealed for 5 years was right at the doorstep. And my son, Keenan, was sitting on the box, banging away at the box. And I said, sweetheart, will you please stop? I mean, I'm doing some work here. And he says,
what's in the boxes, Daddy?
And I said, well, honey, those are my vision boards.
What's a vision board?
I said, well, it's where I put all my goals up. I cut them out and I put all my goals up as something that I want to achieve in my life. And of course, at 5.5 years old, he didn't understand it. So I said, sweetie, let me just show you, because that'll be the easiest way to do it. And so I cut the box open. And when I pulled up the vision boards, there was a picture on there of a home that I was visualizing 5 years earlier. And what was shocking to me was we were living in that house, not a house like it. I had bought my dream home, renovated it, and didn't even know it. But I looked at that house, I started to cry because I was just blown away.
Why are you crying?
Honey, I finally understand how the law of attraction works. I finally understand the power of visualization. I finally understand everything that I've read, everything that I've worked with my whole life, the way I've built companies. It worked for my home as well. And I bought our dream home and didn't even know it.
This is the wonderful world of The Secret documentary, a tour de force of ideas where many variously damaged people appear as talking heads, and explain to us their various theories about life and wealth and health and happiness. And it all centers on the secret, or the law of attraction, which, we will do our best to explicate in reviewing this documentary.
Can you put like Lord of the Rings music underneath this episode?
Underneath the whole episode.
That's a good idea.
It kind of reminds me of when you do the speaking in demonic tongues voice that you do sometimes. It's like every time someone would speak, and then it would cut to a voice going, blah, 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 blah.
Or the whispery sound behind anytime they showed a quote on screen.
The best one was when it was Martin Luther King Jr. and it was like,
yeah. Very, very deranged.
It was like the third time they did that before I realized they were actually saying the quote.
Yes. Yeah, it was. They did have people actually recording the quotes in whispers, but it was still tremendously silly.
Bro, if it was a secret, you wouldn't be able to buy it on DVD.
Well, we'll see about that. Maybe, we'll just have to see about that.
They tried to suppress it.
They did not do a very good job. Well, let me just say by way of introducing this, because we're obviously so excited to dive headlong in. Listeners of the show might remember that about, I want to say a month ago, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, on another one of our free public episodes, which if you haven't heard, maybe you'll want to go back and listen to that. We actually had our good friend Emperor Knight on, and we watched a rom-com called The Secret, Dare to Dream, which is actually a fictional film, a romantic comedy that's based on the teachings of The Secret. And our friend Ember actually shared her personal story of growing up and coming of age in the church of one of the men who's featured in this Secret documentary that we're watching today, the Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, who we heard from a lot. So, we got to introduce some of the Secret concepts, and we also got some really excellent, like, firsthand account of what living in, like, the congregation of that spiritual philosophy was like. So I think that's a great supplement to our discussion today. But we were just so in love with the concept that we wanted to go beyond the romantic comedy and go straight to the source, go straight to the fucking secret.
Yes.
And we uncovered it, y'all.
Secrets were meant to be broken. Or
I think so. I think so.
We uncovered it. It was thanks to Tubi.
Thanks to Tubi and Amazon Prime. The Secret is alive and well.
The Secret. The thing that the 12 people who control 97% of the world's wealth tried to keep down. Some reason couldn't stop this documentary from coming out and being available for free on Tubi.
Yes. It might seem sort of obvious. I would imagine that basically everyone listening to the show probably has a concept in their head about what the secret or what the law of attraction are. And whatever concept that is, it's correct, because you can literally just say anything you want and claim it's the law of attraction, and that's what it is. But before we dig into all of the 1 million funny and scary moments about this documentary, what is vaguely the law of attraction? What is this spiritual philosophy? What do you gain by practicing it?
Well, you would get really rich.
You will get rich. One thing very important to know.
Not quite overnight, but basically overnight.
Yeah, like in a month.
Yeah.
It's so funny because almost every story in the documentary was like, and it didn't really happen at first. And then a month later, I was rich and my cancer was cured. The Secret is, of course, far different from the Christian philosophy that we tend to spotlight on our show. A philosophy which frequently is, sort of contradicted by the actions of the people who are its richest and most powerful defenders. That being said, at the very least, Christian philosophy talks about the joy of humility, of being humble, of giving, of finding joy in living simply, and maybe even being poor. not The Secret. Okay. The Secret is for the movers and shakers of the worlds.
If you're poor, it's your own damn fault.
It really is. Julian, you already said this, but like one of the most, to me, important quotes in the entire documentary, which, you know, goes to show that if you practice The Secret, you can get anything you want. Very early on in the documentary, one of the speakers, I want to say maybe Bob Proctor, but I could be wrong. He says, do you ever wonder why 96% of the wealth is held by the richest 1% of people? That's not an accident. It's because they know the secret.
Yep. That's it.
There you go.
They know the secret. And you too, of course, could get a piece of this pie if you would just know the secret. If you just made a vision board, your dumb ass would be, you know, flying to Little St. James every other weekend.
If you just thought really hard, I want to go to a bunga bunga party with Silvio Berlusconi. I want to be rubbing elbows with the world's elite.
I want to be rubbing more than elbows with them, if you ask me.
I was surprised. But what is the secret? What is the law of attraction? I really don't know after watching this, but it seems the gist of it was if you just think positively about what you want, you will get it. And also do some vision boards. Basically, if you obsess over something for essentially every waking moment, or at least first thing when you get up in the morning, you will, I guess, subconsciously work towards that goal. Basically, if you have a goal in mind, you will get first.
If you stub your toe, it can ruin your whole life.
She like fell down and like broke her neck when she stubbed her toe.
You're getting exactly what you're feeling about, not so much what you're thinking about. That's why people, if they stub their toe out of bed, they tend to spiral.
Today, the inquiry into police corruption.
The whole day goes like that, you know? They have no clue that a simple shifting of their emotions can change their entire day and life.
Happens every day to people who don't practice The Secret.
And on the flip side of that one, so there's a scene where they were like showing the difference between starting your day off with a positive attitude and starting your day off with a negative attitude. The negative attitude, she stubs her toe and is pissed off that she's run out of toothpaste. In the positive one, she doesn't stub her toe and she's still out of toothpaste. She just brushes her teeth with water.
Okay.
Was I wrong? Did I miss something?
I didn't notice that.
I think she either didn't brush her teeth or she just brushed her teeth with water and was like smiling about it.
I think there's something there. Yeah, she went into her backyard, grabbed a twig from a bush, and rubbed the twig with leaves on it against her teeth. Got poison ivy on the inside of her mouth. But my God, she was happy.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, it's essentially just being like, don't sweat the small stuff, but they're putting it in like an Enigma music video for an hour and a half.
That's so real. Yeah, don't sweat the small stuff, but also, and this will become a constant theme throughout the entire documentary. Yes, what you think will come true. As easy as that. So, and here's the beauty and the challenge of that. You better be thinking about the right things. Okay?
Yeah.
Because we learn at many places in this documentary that you might be, you might have the best intentions, but if you accidentally fixate on the wrong things, it can ruin your life. Ruin your life. So yeah, what are some examples of, because again, there's so much material in this documentary. Most of it is said by breathless weirdos who, nowadays would just be posting this on LinkedIn for free. And what are some examples of how, if you think about something, it will happen for you? And these could be positive or negative examples.
Well, one example is the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
He wanted to make a lot of money off of it too. So after the book was made, he thought to himself, I'm going to make a lot of money off this. And then they marketed the book and he made a lot of money off it. $1 million actually, and they showed an image of him adding zeros to a $1 bill, which I liked.
Not quite a million. It was like $900,000.
Well, at first he asked
the
for
first one,
100,000, and he made like 92,000 or 97,000 in a year. And then his wife was like, "Why stop there?" He said.
Yeah, I was misremembering. Most people would stop.
And then he got a $1 million
$100,000
check. Yeah.
Yes, and you're right. He thought about it directly. He said, "I want $100,000." He literally, as Scott said, added a bunch of zeros to a $1 bill and taped it to his ceiling so that he would wake up every morning thinking about the $100,000 he was going to make.
And for some reason, I wanted something that was really measurable. So I said, I want to make $100,000 in a year. And I had no idea how that could do that. I saw no strategy, no possibility, but I just said, I'm going to declare that, I'm going to believe it, I'm going to act as if it's true and release it. And so I did that. And one of the things he taught me was every day to close your eyes and visualize the goal as if it's already achieved. And I had actually made a $100,000 bill that I put on the ceiling. So the first thing I'd see when I woke up, I'd look up and there it was. It would remind me that this was my intention. And then I would close my eyes and visualize having this $100,000 a year lifestyle.
And that man went on to write the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So, let's hope he's a millionaire many times over.
Well, he had already written it. He already had the product, which
right.
is helpful. It's helpful in pulling off the secret, I learned, if you already have a starting point.
Right. Another example of manifesting money, and I can't remember this guy's name. He's not in the documentary too long, but one of my favorite stories in the whole documentary is when the man said, I kept getting bills in the mail. I kept getting bills in the mail. So I thought, what if I was getting checks in the mail instead? And then the more I thought about this, I noticed that checks would just sort of appear in the mail and I would get more checks than bills. So, it worked out for me. So
that's
that's one way to do it.
The long and short of it.
Yeah.
One of the many talking heads, specifically one with the most common job written down, which is author, said that other way around, if you keep thinking, oh, I don't want bills, you'll just keep getting bills.
Yes.
Every day.
This is true. Same applies to if you don't want war or poverty or racism.
Yeah.
You have to pay the bills.
You have to pay
I don't know what
bills.
they're for, but they just keep showing up and you got to pay them.
Every time you look inside your mail expecting to see a bill, guess what? It'll be there. Each day you go out dreading the bill. You're never expecting anything great. You're thinking about debt. You're expecting debt. So debt must show up.
There's a couple things there. One, as with the checks and the bills, I mean, it's already just like a fabulous premise to start with because it doesn't suppose that these bills or these checks come from any source whatsoever. You were just like hit with a bill, like, if you rolled a 7 in Monopoly and landed on a like you lose $200 space, that just sort of happens from time to time. And yeah, second of all, these checks are coming from, I don't know, like a fucking like drop shipping or like, I don't understand, someone, those people who like literally just send you like counterfeit checks. So you'll like cash and then you like, they're like, please deposit this check and then send me the money. And then you do it and you get hit for counterfeiting and then they already have collected your money. It's like this guy kept getting those in the mail and just kept cashing all of them. But yeah, secondly, as Julian was saying, it's very important. One thing we learn deeply from the Secret documentary is that you must not focus on the negative. Not only must you not focus on the bills that you're going to get or the tickets on your car. Don't do that. You're going to get a ticket. On a cosmic level, oh, you hate war? Why are you thinking about war, dummy?
Yeah. It's living rent-free in your head.
War is living rent-free in your head.
Buddy racism crash on the couch. You need to think, I want more equality.
Right.
I want more peace.
I want more not racism.
As Mother Teresa once said, call me when there's a pro-peace rally. I will not be attending an anti-war rally.
Well, to be fair, Mother Teresa was no Mother Teresa once you look up everything she did.
Her various DUIs. No, I heard some.
I honestly,
she's bad, right?
I've heard that's what I'm supposed to think. I don't really I don't know her story at all.
Well, they didn't explain much on The Secret. They don't.
Well,
want
they
to
certainly
get into
didn't
it.
explain much on The Secret, but honestly, I can't remember the man's name who says the point about Mother Teresa and being, anti-war and pro-peace rather instead of anti-war. But I'll never forget the way that he looks at the camera when he's saying, why are you anti-war?
Yeah.
And he's just looking at the camera with this stupid little smug smile on his face. You have to be a fucking idiot to not want there to be war.
I know I'm constantly shitting on rideshare drivers unjustly because, they're just people trying to make a living. This just felt like I was in hopping from one rideshare to another and just being talked about. I'm supposed to be living my life.
Yes. It really was like taking the world's longest Uber ride, this entire documentary. And there's something there because it's an interesting personality type of the person who tells you how to live.
Yes.
I just had frequently this manifests in the Uber driver mentality. I say that in the most general sense, which is a shame. I don't know why that has to be, except for the fact that, a lot of these gig economy jobs kind of preach a sort of self-reliance, be your own boss,
yes.
Aspect of that. I think attracts these people because that's, the vision they have of themselves, which is fine. Everyone has to work a job and have money and stuff. But it is funny that I've never been told how to live more often than when I'm sitting in an Uber.
Right.
I literally just had a driver the other day who just he just kept he spent the entire ride monologuing to me about how and that's how I started my own business because I'm an American. Blah, blah, I'm talking about the American dream, blah, blah. And I didn't want to necessarily talk about my work with him, but I was just trying to participate in his conversation. And I would be oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Yeah, I blah, blah, blah. I can't remember. I said something about how I enjoyed my job. And he would never acknowledge anything I said or tried to contribute to the conversation. It was always just about him. He would always immediately just turn it about him and all the thing, and my buddy told me, he said, I'll bet you $100 you'll never start that business. And I said, you're going to be giving me that $100. He's just saying all this shit to me. And it's just
wow,
man.
You
and that's
would
the
never
secret
be able
right there.
to sell pictures of the mirrors on your feet while they're under women's skirts online.
Ash, it sounds like you're questioning the driver's ideas, but through his knowledge and skill, did he not get you to where you needed to go?
He certainly did. Here I am to this day, right where I need to be.
Wow.
But this is just to say that I'm not, specifically talking about rideshare drivers. I'm just saying that it's just the mentality of the person who just will tell a stranger how to live.
Yeah.
And the Venn diagram of people who are obsessed with the law of attraction is the same circle, basically.
I mean, to me, it seems like just a coping mechanism for people who are backed against the wall in the economy.
Yes.
And are looking for basically any way out of the situation they're in. And this is the perfect, it's a way for people to make money by inspiring others without, acknowledging that the world is a very unfair place and most success is 99% luck.
Yes. I agree with you. I think that that is definitely a big picture of The Secret documentary is there's the famous quote that I believe is sort of misquoted about how, religion is the opiate of the masses. I think that's one of those quotes that like people say popularly to mean a certain thing, but like it actually like means the opposite or something completely different. I think it's one of those type of quotes. I don't know.
Yeah, opiates are great.
Right.
Yeah.
They make you feel really good. The Secret is like literally the opiate of the masses. It's like it's literally like a philosophy that is just pure cope, as you just said, about the unfairness and scarcity of resources. It constantly reinforces one, like, oh, I'm doing the work I need to help myself just by sitting here. And it also gives you a reason to blame and be mad at yourself when things don't go the way they do. It provides an instant explanation for why you're not succeeding, no matter how firmly you preach it or like say you believe in it, you know?
And an instant out for feeling bad too, or guilty for something that you did, however wrong. Because if you feel bad, that'll only lead to more bad things. So that's right out. Can't do that.
And it's just like plays right into the just capitalist brainwashing of like the number one goal in life is to be rich.
Yes.
And you shouldn't be mad at a person for having more money than you. You should be figuring out how to be their friend, like how to get to their level so you both can be rich.
Right.
And The Secret was such a hit that everybody's rich now.
Well,
people have so much money, they don't even know what to do with it.
It's true.
They should have waited to drop this documentary March 2020.
Yeah.
We could have avoided a lot of trouble.
People have so much money that they are raising the costs of goods and services to keep up with how rich everyone is.
Yes. Yes, it is undeniably true. As Michael Beckwith says in the Secret documentary, there's plenty of secret to go around. There's enough for everybody. All you have to do is know the secret. All the greatest minds of history know the secret. All of the successful people nowadays know the secret.
You might have thought, 4 to 8 years ago, you might have thought, oh, I want a new job. I want a new job. I want a new job. Well, guess what? The secret finally paid off. Now you're working 3 to 4 jobs at the same time.
Yep. You got it, baby.
Yeah.
That's the secret right there. Like, it is really, ask and you will receive. I mean, that's a biblical quote itself, but God knows the secret. That's all I'm trying to say.
The greatest people, what's her name? Rhonda Byrne? Is that it?
I believe you're right.
I just downloaded the
Secret
Secret app, by the way.
Secret.
Yeah, and her like a quote attributed to her was on the splash screen here. It's literally just like it's literally just an endless scroll of like things you would see like your parents post on Facebook.
Oh,
like 10 years ago.
The Secret website.
It's just like a picture of a little cactus in front of a camera, and it says, "Give thanks to magically create an abundant life." And you can share that photo with your friends.
Cool.
That's the app, but Rhonda Byrne.
It says to magically create an abundant life.
Yeah. An abundance of gratitude for money equals an abundance of money. But yeah, Rhonda Byrne, she doesn't really say how she discovered the secret. From what I read on Wikipedia was that she read a book that essentially was called The Science of Getting Rich from 1910 and then rewrote that into The Secret.
Yes.
Did she get rich off it?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I would imagine she does pretty well for herself.
The documentary opens with her saying the greatest people in history have known the secret, and it flashes about 12 different white people and one Jewish guy, Albert Einstein.
I couldn't believe all the people who knew this. They were the greatest people in history.
They knew the secret, y'all.
Yeah.
And Rhonda Byrne, the originator of the secret. And yes, she seems to have just been able to synthesize and just make up a bunch of stuff and like synthesize it into this product that's like basically the banner of this new thought philosophy.
She's
nowadays.
a bit of a proto Karen. Looking at her when she shows up in the documentary at the very beginning.
Is that actually her?
I think so.
I think it's supposed to be her. I'm not sure if I can't confirm. They're certainly claiming if it's her. I don't know why, but I have this like suspicion that I'm gonna like.
I think it was her. It looked, I mean, if it
now.
wasn't, then it looked exactly like her.
Okay, yeah. I just like.
I know what you mean, though, Ash. It was an interesting way to display her.
Yeah,
like it was kind of hazy. Like she was part of like one of those psychotic montages that they had many times in this movie.
Yeah.
I think that the editor knows the secret, but the director didn't. What do y'all think?
I mean, he definitely made it happen.
Yeah, isn't that what you want a good editor to do? Well, you could say the same thing about Spielberg's editors or David Lynch's editors.
Right.
They know the secret, but director doesn't.
Right. Yeah. The director. Well, the directors know the secret. They make something out of nothing. The editor needs to pare the secret down. You know, the editor puts the gloves on, like handles the raw energy that the director has, you know, summoned from the source.
The director delivers the elephant,
right,
same day to the editor, and then the editor basically like delays the shipping until the audience is ready for the elephant.
Yes. The elephant's metaphor in the Secret documentary is definitely one of my favorite little images of the whole piece. You know, as the documentary goes on, they're constantly they're lore building. It's kind of like playing, you know, action figures with a little kid, and you know, he always has an explanation for, you know, why things happen a certain way. Like, oh, you can't kill my guy because he does this move. It's like when I remember when I literally remember one time I had a competition with a kid when I was in like second grade of who could make the strongest Pokemon card, and it was just us drawing our own Pokemon cards and writing like hit points like 1 0 0 0 and just seeing like who could make the most zeros, and we just spent like an entire class period just writing zeros on a piece of paper to make the strongest Pokemon card. That's like what the Secret documentary is. And at one point they try to explain, but if you can get everything you want, why aren't there just like parachutes like full of money like dropping on your house or anything like that? And it shows a man looking at a photo of an elephant, and then he hears an elephant outside of his house, and the Secret documentary says like, don't worry, there's a time delay on the Secret, so you won't get everything you want right away, because that would be bad.
That thank God there's a time delay, that all of your thoughts don't come true instantly. We'd be in trouble if they did. The time delay serves you. It allows you to reassess, think about what you want, and make a new choice.
And then we see him cleaning up elephant shit in his apartment.
Yeah.
We see him Ace Ventura style entering an elephant. Does that illusion make sense? I haven't seen that movie since I was like 6 years old.
Okay, coming out of the hippo.
Right.
Wait, neither of you saw Babylon yet?
No,
right?
Not yet.
No.
Shit. All right. Great opening elephant scene. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Fabulous.
And a couple more solid ones.
Well, again, there's so much in this documentary. I feel like we're kind of going out of order, which is fine. I do in general want to talk about just like the actual style of this documentary, like the visual editing, directing style of this.
Yes.
What is notable about this documentary from a production standpoint?
Well, I wrote down several descriptors. I said 90-minute Enigma music video.
Yes.
I wrote Encardicore.
Yes. Fuck yeah.
And then finally I realized that this was like made pretty close to, like made in the middle of the Lord of the Rings success.
Exactly.
And it's very much in the same vein of Passion of the Christ trying to do like Lord of the Rings. And it finally clicked with the like whispering, because I was like, where have I heard that? And it's like literally whenever anybody in Lord of the Rings is like going to put on the big secret in that movie, the Ring of Power, you hear people like disembodied voices whispering.
Yes.
And what does the ring give you? It gives you whatever you desire, including the like font was like Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that the Lord of the Rings like legitimately changed the nature of cinema at the time. And this is a 2006 documentary, right? Which is like,
imagine if this came out after Tim and Eric. It probably would have looked exactly the same. To
probably,
be honest.
They would have been doing well. Tim and Eric similarly like changed the face of advertising. Like now every commercial that's like weird is directly inspired by their fake commercials. And production style. But yeah, I think like Lord of the Rings was to cinema at that time because like, it's like I remember when we watched Passion of the Christ and like we all independently came to the same conclusion that it like looked exactly like Lord of the Rings. It was just about the disciples and Jesus, which is pretty fascinating. I love that about the feel of the documentary. I loved the way that they blended in montage and dramatic reenactment into people's stories. There were some of the most delightful parts of the entire documentary weren't even messages being delivered, but the way that these things were acted out.
Yeah.
I know we did tell the story on the episode with Ember. I was so excited to talk about it that I spoiled it, but I have to mention again, early on in the documentary, the episode about the gay comedian, which becomes a defining image, like right off the bat, in which one of the talking heads of the documentary, a therapist, says that he had a client who was a gay comedian and he was constantly being homophobically bullied at the workplace, on the streets. They reenacted a montage of just like basically a gay sexual fantasy montage of a bunch of like attractive men on the street, like throwing milkshakes at you and like calling you a fag and stuff like that.
It's like a pack of guys waiting for him at the elevator at his apartment.
And it's like, oh no, not that, anything but this.
I had a student named Robert. Robert was a gay man, and he was taking an online course I have, part of which entails email access to me. And he outlined all of the grim realities of his life. In his job, all the people ganged up on him. And it was constantly stressful because of how nasty they were with him. When he walked down the street, he said every block he was accosted by homophobic people who wanted to abuse him in some way. He was wanting to become a stand-up comedian. And when he went out and did a stand-up comedy job, everybody heckled him about being gay. And his whole life was one of a lot of unhappiness and misery, and it all focused around this idea of being attacked because he was gay. I began to teach him that he was focusing on what he did not want. I directed him back to his email that he sent me and said, read it again. Look at all the things you do not want that you're telling me about. And I can tell you're very passionate about this. When you focus on something with a lot of passion, it makes it happen even faster. And then he really started taking this thing about focusing on what you want to heart. And he began really trying. What happened within the next 6 to 8 weeks was absolutely a miracle. He said that all the people in his office that had been harassing him either transferred to another department, quit working at the company, or started totally leaving him alone, and he began to love his job. He noticed that when he was walking down the street that nobody came up to him and harassed him anymore. They just weren't there.
It's like the scene, it's literally like the scene in Eyes Wide Shut where he's walking down the street and then like those like 8 guys come up to him and like literally show their asses to Tom Cruise, and they're like, it was pretty awesome. His coworkers make him sit on bananas. Yes. And then there's just, he sits on a banana, gets up, and there's a direct shot of his coworker taking up a digital camera and like snapping it. It's so fucking funny. But of course, this culminates in him learning to think about being homophobically bullied. And once he does that, all the bullying stops. And when he performs his stand-up comedy to rapturous applause, he gets on stage and simply says, I am a very, very gay man, and gets a standing ovation.
I am a very, very gay man.
When he went and did his stand-up comedy routines, he started getting standing ovations and nobody was heckling him.
Also, all of his mean coworkers were transferred.
They get transferred. And all he has to do
within a week.
Say what he did. He just was listening to wasn't he listening to some book on tape or something? He was just listening to affirmations.
I think so. Something like that. He didn't stay stressed. He stopped seeing, homophobic bullies lurking in every shadow, and everything in his life changed. He no longer was bullied. He is simply a very, very gay man.
Oh, I have so many of these that I wrote down, and I don't know where to begin.
Yeah. I mean,
the guy who wanted to date 3 women at once.
That one's so sick.
He's a painter. And then who was that lady? I missed her lower third, so I just didn't.
I don't remember. That was the only part she was in the whole documentary.
She was like, he was a movie producer who paints.
He's an art director. Yeah, he's an art director to a famous director.
Yes. And his dream was to date 3 women at once. And then she said, okay, then do it. And then she met up with him 5 months later or something. And he's like, I grow bored of this. I want a happy relationship, a happy monogamous relationship. And then she was like, well, paint it and it will happen.
Yes.
And then he paints like the most god awful. It looked like,
looks like
you
a
familiar
Mad
with the term
magazine,
naive art?
Yes.
Like it looked like it was painted by a developmentally disabled person.
It really did.
Like, yeah, it looked like an elephant painted it. Maybe the same elephant from earlier.
Yeah, he thought positively about having an elephant that's good at painting, and then had the elephant paint what he wanted.
Yeah, it was incredible.
6 months later, see him in Europe and said, how is your love life?
Great. They just call me. They all want to date me.
Because that's your wish.
Now I have like 3 dates a week. They're fighting over me.
Good on you.
But I really want to stabilize a little bit. I want marriage, and I want romance.
Well, paint it, okay?
Oh, yeah. And then the transition of like the painting of the couple eating strawberries in the park like morphs into him and a woman eating strawberries in a park.
Yes. The other key to this story, which is very important, is that originally when she first meets this man, she says she's at his beautiful house, and in every corner of the house, he had painted a picture of a woman looking sort of like seductive.
Yes.
And
man is a sex addict. The man is a sex addict.
Clearly. But she says, oh, you're having trouble in romance. And the reason I can tell is because you're painting portraits of women who are, luring you in, but not giving you anything. So what you need to do if you want to date 3 women is paint pictures of you with 3 women. So now this fucking like psycho has taken down all of his paintings, his hand-done paintings of women that look like Mad Magazine fold-ins.
Yeah.
And he's replaced them with drawings of himself with, 3 women. It's like you typed into Mid-Journey like Terry Richardson photography oil painting or something like that. And so now his apartment looks even more like Scaring the Hose worthy, but it works. He's dating 3 women, and yet he is not satisfied until he then, of course, begins to paint the pictures of him in a monogamous relationship, having a picnic, and he gets what he wants. So yeah, not only do you have to picture what you want, you create. When this documentary purports that when you create something, especially an art object, it's very, very powerful, and you have to be careful about what you like depict and do in your art.
Yeah, you can do anything. You could also, that would make like if you get good at it and fast at it, you could like not have to grocery shop anymore as long as you're doing it like 30 days out or whatever. And you just do like every few days, you do another painting of your fridge is full of the food that you like.
I really liked every interview, just to go back to the style, every interview had a different object, like highlighted or featured behind them. One person had like a tuning fork. The chicken soup for the soul guy had his book with like a steaming bowl of chicken soup animated on it.
Yeah.
My favorite was the lady who had a mirror behind her. And during the entire movie, it just showed a tiny, like, it was like a small mirror off in the distance behind her. And for some reason, they felt the need to get the reverse shot of her in the mirror's reflection through the whole movie. So every time they go to her interview, there is just a tiny version of herself moving along with her. It's like on your driver's license, how there's a tiny photo of you in the corner.
That's to keep your bigger photo company.
This is what I would look like from far away.
It should have been the back of her head, though, you know, because it was like a small mirrored version of her.
Yeah,
so
it was like,
but it's behind her.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
the
stupid.
thing was, this was actually like, I mean, nowadays there's just so many cheap versions of documentaries like this. This was actually like, I mean, not a particularly high budget, but like they did spend a little more time sort of like lovingly designing the frames that they'd made for people in a way that you don't always see. Like that one guy.
This is why I'm saying that the editor knows the secret and the director doesn't, because so much went together into piecing this together. And for all I know, this is all the director's idea, and they're just doing what he asked. But it seemed like they had to have been pretty into it themselves to make it happen the way it happened.
I agree. I think that, the editing is really what like saves and like makes this documentary special. Like it's what elevates it to the realm of like, this could actually, like, I could see this as an idiot and have it be like a convincing piece of religious propaganda, as opposed to just like any documentary you would watch on, I don't know. At that time, I guess any DVD you would buy at the store for $14.99. Now just like documentary you would watch on Tubi or Amazon Prime or something. But yeah, that really, the editing really makes it.
This really did, like, I feel like totally influence documentary. Well, not, I don't want to call this a fucking documentary. Whatever this type of thing is, like
exploitation.
I feel like all of Scientology is based their whole aesthetic off of this for the next 10, 15 years. Basically, like any sort of like pyramid scheme, essentially, materials is like done like this. I don't know which came first. But this is like, what was this, 2006 or something?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it is very Scientology style from like late 2000s to early 2010s at least, when I was paying attention to that stuff.
This constant bombardment of information without letting up, and like contradictory things back and forth, while stock footage of frequently throughout this, there was stock footage of like people in Africa dancing and being happy, which I did not match up with anything they were saying.
I know.
It was just random shit to make you feel like you were part of something bigger than yourself.
Right. There's a lot of stock footage used. I agree. And a theme of like the world and exoticism is definitely deployed throughout. Again, to sort of, as I think that's probably it. Is to make you feel like, oh, I'm a part of the global village. Yeah, there would routinely be like
parts of the world well known for manifesting prosperity and wealth. Third world countries.
I was thinking about that. Like they would be like,
of course, the only reason that they would not have done that is they aren't trying hard enough. Not any sort of outside intervention.
I know. That was remarkable. They would use stock footage to indicate wealth by showing, a couple men in suits at a table in like a luxurious and kind of cloistered environment. And then they would show the idea of like worldly happiness by showing like, basically a naked like African baby like smiling at the camera, which is like, where else do like Americans see that image in media? Is like literally on those commercials where they're like, you can feed this child for like 45 cents a day or whatever. It's like, I'm just talking purely from like a visual storytelling perspective. It was just, it was very strange to sort of see those images like contrasted side by side. Like on one hand, like white men are still the symbol of like secret wealth, but people of all like, global nationalities are, still deployed as visions of success, but in kind of like a worldly togetherness type of success, not necessarily material.
Which, you know, as the documentary tells you after the story of the guy who manifested getting checks in the mail every day, money is not the key to happiness. So you shouldn't expect to find happiness in material goods.
Yes.
Because that was a very convenient out for that.
Yeah. How do we reconcile that? Go on, Scott. I feel like you're going to.
Just right after that, they're like right back into the like, but anyway, back to getting material goods.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we reconcile that? Like, yeah, there's a constant interplay between this is what you do. You think hard. You gain access to the 1% of wealth, or the 1% of elites who have 96% of the wealth. You can literally gain access to this. But at the same time, like, you have to know how to love yourself. That's the greatest wealth of all. Like, you can have all the wealth and not be happy, and it's like you're poor.
It's just like a plausible deniability thing of like, oh, you know, you still haven't gotten that money. Maybe that's not what you actually want. So like maybe it's the universe telling you that's not what you actually want, and what you actually want is to be happy.
Right.
And that's not going to be achieved through money.
Yeah, right.
Who is it that said that about the money? Was it the entrepreneur?
No, it was I think it was one of the authors. I think it was the author with the MBA, the lady with the.
Was it Lisa Nichols by chance?
Lisa Nichols was. No, she was the one with the mirror behind her.
Yes, yeah, that was her. Yeah.
But she was part of that because she was like, she was the one who was like, I didn't succeed until I started loving myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, she would routinely give the more like self-affirmational quotes in the film. They were usually done from this very like glowing, well-practiced, like, you know, self-love perspective. Like she had, you know, rehearsed everything to the nines and been like, you know, it wasn't until I started loving, you know, my curves and my skin and like all these things, you know, that was when I became truly happy. But like she's also literally earlier in the documentary being like, it's a 3-step process. 1, you think. 2, you believe. And 3, you receive.
That's it.
So, yeah.
That's all. And it works all the time with every person.
It always works. It works every time with every person.
It works all the time with every person unless it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then you're either literally doing something wrong, or it's not what you really want, or why aren't you happy with what you have already? Why are you even asking, bro?
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty funny spin of things when they got into the self-affirmatory things. Like there really is a point. It's like you get deeper and deeper. Oh, I've been doing this. And then like one of these people, you know, one of these multi-million, one of these entrepreneurs in quotation marks says to you like, well, why aren't you happy right now? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, to be happy, you have to think about being happy. You have to be happy.
You do. And as they say, you can cook a man's dinner with electricity, and you can cook the man.
That's very true.
Do you know how it works? I don't know how it works, but I do know this, that you can cook a man's dinner with electricity, and you can also cook the man.
That was one of my favorite quotes in the entire entire documentary.
To show you how powerful the secret is. You know, I don't know how it works, but it's powerful.
Yes.
As scientifically proven. And they say it's scientifically proven that a proven thought is hundreds of times more powerful than a negative thought.
Yes.
It has been proven now scientifically that an affirmative thought is hundreds of times more powerful than a negative thought. So that eliminates a degree of worry right there.
Scientists proved that with their calculators.
Yeah,
and their
metaphysicians.
bombs and their guns.
Quantum physicists. Can I just list off all the lower third
Please,
job
that
titles we were
would be
given?
very instructive.
All of these people had their own special, like, gigantic signature too. That I think is
Yes.
a sign of mental health. The fact that, like,
Yeah, it was a nice
do you
touch.
know anybody who? I mean, I haven't seen either of your signatures, but do you know anybody who has a signature of their own name that's like you can clearly see it spelled out, like they're signing the Declaration of Independence when they sign their name? Mine's like a triangle with like a square
mine
attached to it.
Looks like nothing at all. It looks like I just squiggled it.
What have you assholes manifested
squiggles and
lately? That's what
dots.
I want to know.
I manifested these kratom drinks.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
What manifested into my house? What are these? What are these lower thirds? With whom are we working with?
Okay. We got an entrepreneur. He shows up a lot. 5 authors.
Okay.
A writer, different than an author somehow. A metaphysician. A visionary. A therapist. At least 2 quantum physicists. At least 2 philosophers. A psychologist. A physician. Investment trainer. Financial strategist. Feng shui consultant.
Yeah.
Kathy Goodman. The Miracle Man. And a teacher.
The Miracle Man was awesome, dude.
Which one was he?
He was the guy who...
Is it the cowboy hat?
He was the giant cowboy hat with the pocket square who the evil doctors told him he would never walk again after he was like, I crashed a plane.
He goes, I will never forget that day. Damn, I hope so.
I will never forget that day.
I
I
hope he
crashed a plane. What was his voice? He was like, I crashed a plane. I crashed a plane.
He did have the. I will say he did have the voice of someone who at one point doctors thought would never walk again. I will say that much. But yeah, the Miracle Man was very, very important to the documentary.
Yeah.
He was an example of how you could use the secret not just to manifest wealth, but to manifest health.
Well, my story begins on March 10th, 1981. It really changed my whole life. It was a day I'll never forget. I crashed an airplane.
Dr. Manifest Healing Thyself, as one did with the woman with breast cancer who cured her breast cancer by watching public domain comedies
Yes.
every night.
Yes. So this is one of the most crucial parts of the documentary. It's not just about, we've mostly been focusing on its aspects of how to get money and succeed financially, which is like hugely important to The Secret and one of, the most fun things to think about. But this documentary makes very clear claims that The Secret is basically better for your health than any kind of medical intervention.
Yes.
And yes, the Miracle Man is a man who crashed his own plane into the ground somehow and, it was completely paralyzed, could only blink to communicate, couldn't even swallow on his own. He had to spit, unfortunately. But then, through just basically his own power of positive thing, there's a great reenactment of him using his eye blinking to communicate the phrase, I will walk out by Christmas.
Yeah.
And he does. The doctors say he will never be more than a vegetable, but he uses the power of positive thinking. Similarly,
Cowboy hat and the butterfly.
And similarly, we meet a woman who cured herself of, I want to say, terminal breast cancer.
I don't know.
I don't know if they said the word
made it out
terminal.
to sound pretty bad.
Pretty bad breast cancer. And from the time she was diagnosed, she basically just said, I would just walk around all day saying, thank you for my healing. I would only think positively. And crucially, I would watch funny movies.
Yes.
Yeah. I believe ape movies specifically. But I just hear that.
I mean, we know it's the power of the ape movie to assist in someone's, internal well-being and their internal, their mental biome here. That's well documented.
She stopped using sunscreen and toothpaste. Switched to all natural diet.
Yes, she did.
All raw food diet.
And with a healthy combination of archive.org and Tubi.
Yes.
Here she is.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, I remember watching this time. This is the second time I watched this documentary. I wish I wrote down the exact quote, but they're like right to start the place. Maybe I'll have to try to put these quotes in, but just starting the segment of the documentary where they start talking about health, like I'm pretty sure one of the guys literally says like all disease is just a manifestation of stress.
It's something like that.
He basically says that. Like he basically says, and at one
because
point,
it's dis-ease.
Dis-ease.
And he pronounces
Proctor
it dis-ease when he says disease.
Right.
Because it's dis and ease, as in the body is not at ease.
Right.
This was Bob Proctor.
I love Bob Proctor. Also, another man, and I can't remember which man it was. But he literally says, and nowadays we have all these diagnoses, and puts scare quotes around the word diagnoses, as if to say that like it's like when people talk about, now there's 37 genders or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like we used to just have you were sick or you're not sick. Now we have cancer, tuberculosis, whooping cough. Like I don't know. It's like that's like the way he describes it. He literally makes it seem like if you get diagnosed with something, that's like being a special snowflake, and like why don't you just like think better thoughts?
You're stressed. You wanted to be sick. There's something to be said about maintaining a positive, like stress is not going to help your situation if you're sick.
Absolutely not. And stress can make you sick. And this is where, and it's we absolutely must discuss this aspect of the Secret documentary. What makes the Secret documentary so successful, and also what makes it so frustrating, is that all throughout it, there are things that are just intuitively true.
Yeah.
And I would find myself while watching the documentary, like thinking about my own life and being like, oh, maybe I do focus on that like too much.
Yeah.
And, just thinking about like they would say something and something would cross in my mind about something that I felt like I lacked. And I would be like, oh, maybe I'm doing it wrong. And that's what's so like just so weird and alluring about this documentary. It is so simple that it's like dangerously oversimplified. But you can't help but admit that there are elements of truth to these things. The placebo effect is real.
Yeah, but the way the guy I wrote this down. The way the guy describes it, he says that the placebo effect. He said that the placebo effect proves that the placebo works better than the medicine.
Right.
Which is not what the placebo effect is.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely true that like we can develop sort of little rituals and like you can basically like if you tell yourself that if I eat this thing like an hour before I go to bed, it'll help me sleep or whatever. I'm just pulling an example out of thin air. You can basically like brain pill yourself into like helping yourself do something. You create an external thing that symbolizes like something to help yourself. You make a little superstition or ritual for yourself.
Yeah.
It can absolutely have like a real profound effect on the way you feel. If you think, oh, when I do this at a certain time, it eases my stress or whatever. Then you do that thing and you believe it's going to work. So it does work because yes, your mind and body do have a very powerful link that you should be aware of and you can exploit to make things better for yourself.
Right. They just put these kind of common sense stress relief things or just working towards goals.
Yes.
Into these terms that it's like some magical secret.
Right.
That very few people know. A lot of people know these things.
Right.
Well, do you know how much energy is in your body though? First of all, if you look under a microscope, your hand is just like a massive vibrating energy.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm very familiar with that. Don't you worry.
Think of this for a moment. Take your hand and look at it. Now, your hand looks solid, but it's really not. If you put it under a proper microscope, you'd see a massive energy vibrating.
Just as a human, though, any individual, no matter what city they live in, has enough energy to power it for almost a week.
I don't care what city you're living in, you've got enough power in your body, potential power, to illuminate the whole city for nearly a week.
Okay, that's really good to know. The day that Los Angeles grinds my bones to run their fucking power generators for a week, then I can't wait to put that to the test.
That was the plot of that Ursula Le Guin short.
Yeah. Right.
I love that.
It's just weird that, like, no matter what city, it's like Cleveland versus Los Angeles. Like, both you will almost power for a week.
Power. How long can I power Cleveland? Is that what that
You're
show
on a
Hot
little
in
hamster
Cleveland was
wheel?
about?
Yeah.
But
I got to get on the hamster wheel this week to power the LA city. Are we talking about LA City or LA County?
Well, wait. I want to go back to the some of the common sense reasoning of The Secret, because I think that I just think it's so crucial, and I actually think that therein lies a way that you can sort of fundamentally disprove The Secret. And something I was thinking about, this sort of disproof, this amazing atheist anti-proof of The Secret crossed my mind when I was watching this the second time. So this movie's always talking about what you visualize. If you're so enraptured, basically ecstatically by a vision of something, that is creating, it's manifesting in your life. Well, what I got to thinking is, what about when someone watches pornography or has a sexual fantasy? That is a period where psychologically your mind is fixated on a very specific thing, and you could say you want that thing. You almost get enraptured by it. So what I want to know is, why isn't every single person on earth, why doesn't exactly what you watch in your porn, a porno, happen to you exactly 30 days later, all the time? Tell me, Julian. Tell me.
Maybe that's not what you want.
Maybe that's not what I really want.
Yeah.
Well, you can't finish.
Maybe you
can
actually
only edge for that to happen.
Yeah. You're blowing when you shoot your load, you're expanding that energy out of you. I want to see the same energy explosion effect that comes out of these people's minds in the movie.
Well, there is something about there's a lot of new thought stuff that relies on the idea of the retention or explosion of sexual energy to sort of create to manifest things. People sort of intuitively understand throughout new thought disciplines that this is sort of a powerful and ecstatic yet vulnerable state the mind is in. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of when I was in college, I watched a talk by the comic book writer Grant Morrison, who wrote The Invisibles, among other things. And he's an occult guy. He's really into witchcraft. And he, in his talk, talked about something where he's if you draw sigils and basically masturbate while you're looking at the sigils, then that is how you can make things happen in your life. The power of your focused sexual energy and discharge is what creates things. So I think
Wait, you can still come though?
Grant Morrison said you could. But that guy Will Blunderfeld on TikTok says you shouldn't do that. The guy who drinks his own piss.
Yeah.
He says you shouldn't. Well, all I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to, pervert this Christian podcast here, but what I'm just saying is I'm just thinking everything they described in the documentary about how you should think about things reminded me of the pornographic fixation on orgasm. And that just got me thinking why isn't everyone constantly being double teamed by giant Amazonian women or whatever, on the street?
Well, maybe you'll find
by a
that
giant genie.
Right.
That was
Which
awesome.
we did see in this documentary.
Maybe you'll find that you are strapped to a milking table at a semen collecting facility in China.
You may find yourself.
And you're not happy.
No.
And maybe true happiness is not in indulging in your wildest fantasies. It's gooning until you have blisters all over your penis. Maybe that's what real happiness is.
It could be.
That would be my follow-up to your talking head. That's like, bookmark every sexual fantasy that you jack off to. Print them out.
Print them out. Put them on your vision board.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I just, that again is that's my amazing atheist disproof about this documentary, because it really says that anything that you focus super hard about, like what really reminded me about that, the part where they were talking about how when you want your dream car, you should
this was so awesome.
You should spend like a couple minutes, I don't know, every day or every so often, basically sitting there and like acting out the motions of driving your car and getting blissed out and getting like lost in the rapture of driving your car.
They show a guy having like intense hallucinations that he is driving like convertible.
That's why so many 4-year-olds have convertibles.
Yes, exactly.
Have you noticed that?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like, so this movie is basically saying that a powerful daydream is the most like, crucial and like even dangerous type of magic. It even, illustrates it with the comical point about if you imagine an elephant, like one could show up at your house if it weren't for the merciful nature of the secret being on a time delay.
Yeah. Same guy who cleaning up the elephant shit that was like deluding himself into thinking he was driving a car.
Oh, that was the same actor. I didn't remember that. That's funny. But yeah, I think that's very interesting. Yeah. Anything you are able to get yourself lost in a trance about will come to you.
Yeah.
I don't remember them mentioning it. Do you have to be a certain age then? Because like small children have very powerful imaginations.
Exactly.
And, like, believe stuff as hard as they can.
Well, their cells have not been regenerated enough times. There was something about that in there too. They were throwing a lot of stuff at you in these 90 minutes.
It's a pretty information-packed 90 minutes. Actually, yeah, the insistence on like various scientific topics is very, very interesting. Quantum mechanics is a powerful thing. I read on the secret Wikipedia page that part of the appeal about the sort of like quantum thing, there's like, oh God, I have to find this. It talks about how quantum mechanics and quantum, like some sort of quantum thought, it's like they're named very similarly, and the documentary intentionally like sort of associates them, but that's like very convenient.
Yeah, they're just like playing a trick on being, it's just like fast editing, it's fast cut.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, quantum.
Yeah. And even just like not even just editing, but just like association, like convenient association.
Yeah. Like Xavier Renegades style. Like that's not the sentence you started with.
Yeah.
There's like quantum mysticism. I can't find this thing I read, but it's basically just like conveniently associating the word quantum using these like science topics that have a handle in like mysticism to basically just say like this is scientifically proven. Like you said, Julian, that one thing about how they were like it's scientifically proven that like a human can power like I don't know.
Was that a negative thought is 10 times more powerful than a positive one?
Yes, the equation. Everyone knows. Scientists have proven a negative thought is 10 times more powerful than a positive one, or maybe vice versa.
Wait, I thought the positive thought was 100 times more powerful than the negative.
Oh, the positive thought is more powerful.
That's right. Yeah, it's vice versa.
Okay.
But still, it's been proven. It's been proven.
Yeah, I hate to get that mixed up.
Yeah, God, all these people could be leaving this podcast.
But if it's scientifically proven, then it doesn't matter what I say.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, that is the fundamental frustration and allure of The Secret. Something so vague and, easily just interpretable to whatever you need it to be, whether that's to manipulate someone or delude yourself. It's been scientifically proven.
This documentary came out 2 years before the entire economy collapsed. The entire world economy collapsed.
Well, that wily 1% using The Secret again as hard as they could to just encourage them further.
We didn't want it hard enough. Remember when they say that usually the person who wins the election is the candidate for which there's more negative desire, the more people who feel negatively about that candidate, that's who win. That was when the documentary really, I mean, like the whole documentary was just jumping the shark, but that moment like really jumped it for me because it was basically like that brought it the idea that there's a collective, like not just individual thought for self-manifestation, but collective thought can manifest grand things. So that means, yeah, when a fucking like, you know, earthquake kills like, or a mudslide kills like 200 people in, you know, a country or whatever, it's like, oh, did everyone just manifest that by going no mudslide, no mudslide, no mudslide?
Yeah.
Like that's like everybody's fault. Every bad thing that happens is, it's not like, if you stub your toe in the morning, that's your fault. If you know, a terrorist attack
that's
happens,
another
that's
weird
everybody's
contradiction because it's like they're saying like, so when you just get out of bed and like you can't think yet and your brain's not working right yet, if you accidentally bump your toe, then like I wasn't sure if they were saying like that is your fault and the rest, everything that happens after is also your fault because of that, or if they were saying like don't let that accident, not that accidents happen, spoil your day or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's supposed to be how you react to your toe being stubbed. If you say this is not going to be my day, I stubbed my toe. You're damn right, it's not going to be your day, snowflake. But if you say thank you for the healing of my toe,
yes, as your toe is split in half and bleeding, thank you.
But then it grows back into more toes, and then you have many toes.
That was amazing when they were talking about the healing aspect of it and how your body like replaces all of itself. And it was like, no, if you like lose a finger, you just don't have that finger anymore.
Interesting.
Like I know what they're saying about like different parts of your body regenerating, like, you know,
the cells,
skin is always shedding and growing more, of course, you know, but like, the way
I
they
can
said
actually,
it was like,
I can actually
grow your heart back.
Yeah, I can actually my similar to like a newt. My extremities fall off when I feel the predator threat. So basically, whenever a woman like hits on me at a bar, like my left arm will just detach as I run out of there screaming, and then it grows back.
Yeah,
my penis is always falling off and regrowing. But you know that's to protect me, and that's what makes me special.
You're like Joseph leaving his coat, but you just leave your arm.
Yeah. What else? I mean, there is just so much.
Well, where do we see the secret nowadays?
Ooh,
it's like
question.
the grind set thing, like Sigma grind set,
hustle culture.
Hustle culture.
It's
just taking on. It's that same shit. It's just taking on a different. Now it's like way more like aggro.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing I think maybe is that speculative culture has hit the individual consumer maybe in a way that it would have been more relegated to like, you know, just a certain class of people in the past, like, you know, things such as the tech industry, which employs so many people, even like average people. You know, who might not be founders themselves, but they might be employed in the tech sector. So many people are. And it's like, you'll have a great job one year, and then the next year it's like your company's disappeared. Cryptocurrency, day trading, you know, the popularity of day trading and like speculation on the individual level has made it so like we all now have access to these volatile, you know, money transfers. I think that it's definitely allowed the law of attraction to take hold in like a pretty observable way in a lot of people's lives, you know?
It all boils down to kind of just like, I am special because I'm the only one who's trying hard enough to do these things.
Yep. I want it bad.
Yeah.
I want it bad.
Anybody can get rich. All you have to do is just go to your bank and take out a predatory loan.
Right.
Then the checks are going to start coming in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, on Twitter recently, since the Elon Musk takeover, and like, you know, you guys don't go on there, I do, But you probably know what happened. He took away the verified blue checks. Now you buy them, and people who get verified are at the top of the feed. Of course, the people who buy blue checks are like Musk disciples. So now a very popular tweet that we all get advertised is like, I literally saw a tweet that was a guy being like, do not get married between the ages of 22 to 29. Like, you'll waste your life. Like, only get married after this age. And just like basically the type of person. That's just one. That's just one example. It's so insane. That's just one example of. I only bring that up to say the type of person who thinks that you can gamify and optimize things in your life, such as like falling in love or like finding love. Like someone who's like, you have to be very strategic. I'm going to decide to fall in love when I'm 34 because that's the most like advantageous like year for it. It's like, you know, the type of person who thinks that is plausible probably doesn't actually care for human relationships or really much of anything. And you know, I feel like that's how The Secret is manifesting in today's society.
Yeah.
Gamifying and trying to optimize every aspect of your life, like a hyper individualism that is like delusional in how anything works.
Twitter's just become like Fox News, hasn't it? I just read an article that Ron DeSantis is like announcing his presidential campaign
on a Twitter space.
On a Twitter space with Elon Musk.
Yes. And and a lot of conservative broadcasters. Tucker is apparently going to start a Twitter show that live streams. The Daily Wire is going to move to streaming on Twitter. So yeah, it does seem like Twitter is sort of de facto going to become like, the new Fox News, like basically a conservative, conservative opinion and news source. It's kind of, let's just say, interesting how that worked out.
Let's not alienate any of our listeners. The world has taken a nightmare pill, as they said in The Secret. And we are clearly seeing its effects.
Wow, I'm so nightmare pilled, bro.
Yeah, I meant to take the placebo nightmare pill. Or maybe I did, because that's more powerful than the actual nightmare pill.
Either way, getting nightmares.
I just really I knew I was going to love this documentary the first time like waves of energy exploded out of somebody's head. Like, I cannot stress that enough. That is so fucking funny. Every time somebody like wants something and they're like, just visualize it, and there's like an explosion with like a crazy like sound effect, like whoosh.
And you will attract them.
Just energy waves coming out of this person's head. And then they get a fucking necklace?
Yep. It's because she saw the necklace in the store.
Can you do this as many times as you want? Like,
yeah, man. There's enough secret to go around. You heard them.
I've been trying to manifest a fucking Steam Deck for like the past 9 months, and I have not gotten it.
Well, there's your first mistake right there. You shouldn't even be thinking about the idea of not having it. You should just be saying, thank you for my Steam Deck.
Fuck.
Every time I see you, every time you speak on the podcast, all I want to hear you say is, thank you for I'm enjoying playing on my Steam Deck.
Thank you for my Steam Deck. May I have another?
Thank you for my Steam Deck. Wham, bam, thank you for my Steam Deck.
I've said for many years that whatever we think about and think about, we bring about.
Because that's that feeling that you have to have, you know. And so for me, it's been such a powerful exercise every morning to get up and say thank you. Every morning when my feet hit the floor, thank you. And then I start running through what I'm grateful for as I'm going to brush my teeth and do the things I do in the morning. And I'm not just thinking about them and doing some rote routine, but I'm putting it out there and I'm feeling the feelings of gratitude.
Oh, God. I've tried asking work to give me one.
I know. I hope they do. I really do. I mean, they be sending me a new game PC. I hope they send you a Steam Deck.
You'll get it, Julian. I'm sure of it.
I know I will. Thank you for my Steam Deck. The 500 gigabyte one, please. Thank you.
The 500 one, please, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for my Steam Deck, the premium priced one. Thank you.
It really was super fun to watch. And I would say to the listeners, if you think maybe I want to watch The Secret now, you'll know within the first minute. You'll know within the first minute if it is for you or not. And it probably is.
It flew by.
It really did.
Not going to lie, a lot of these movies, I am doing something else while they play in the background. This one I was actually watching for most of it.
Your mouth was hanging up and there was drool
Yeah.
down as you were
Thank you.
as you were visualizing the Steam Deck in a glistening orb of energy. I think we should review this one in a sec. But I did say there is one like dire fact I need to make sure we record before we get to that, which is the fact of the I was just Googling some of the talking heads in The Secret.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I want to know if there's anything cool about them. Most of them was just like, oh, they wrote a book called like, There Is No Luck or whatever, just like gay shit like that. But then I noticed the philosopher. Oh my god,
this guy was cool.
Oh my god, I miss it.
The more prominent philosopher.
Yeah, he was in a lot of the documentary. James Arthur Ray,
where he was like, "You're gonna max out if you say you can't do something. You're gonna max out here." And he held his like one hand horizontally at like chin level.
Yes,
he's like, and the universe is trying to give you something, and then it'll hit that limit, and it will go back down.
Yes,
and he's like speaking so profoundly.
Yes, well. He is a self-help, guru and businessman, and he would lead various retreats. In 2009, I'll just read from Wikipedia. On October 8th, 2009, at a New Age spiritual warrior retreat conceived and hosted by Ray, by James Arthur Ray. His last name is Ray. 2 participants died as a result of being in a non-traditional sweat lodge exercise for several hours, personally conducted by Ray. 18 others were hospitalized after suffering burns, dehydration, breathing problems, kidney failure, or elevated body temperature. And then a third attendee died after being in a coma for a week following this event. Ray, he made them fast. They paid $10,000 for the retreat. They fasted for 36 hours for a vision quest exercise. They were left alone in the Arizona desert with a sleeping bag, although Ray had offered them Peruvian ponchos for an additional $250. After this experience, they ate a large buffet breakfast before entering the sweat lodge. And several of them had gone for several days without water before entering the structure. He immediately fled the scene because he said he was, quote, scared. He refused to speak to authorities and immediately left Arizona. He left a note saying he was unavailable as he was in prayer and meditation.
Thank you. I just keep imagining him like white knuckling the steering wheel, rocking back and forth. Thank you.
He was convicted of I want to say manslaughter. It might have been called like negligent homicide.
Yeah,
I think,
negligent
in Arizona.
homicide is what it said.
He apparently served 2 years in prison.
Funny how you can just kill somebody in Arizona and they're like, you were being negligent.
Yeah. I mean, I guess theoretically, he didn't know he was he killed 3 people and injured 18.
I mean, they're just like,
That's insane.
You were too stupid to think that this would kill somebody is, I guess, what negligent homicide is.
Right. It's just,
and then he fled.
And then
that's really negligent.
It's very negligent.
You were neglecting the need to stay at the scene of the mass murder you conducted.
Yes. And so that's one of the most notable alumni of The Secret, James Arthur Ray. I was pretty blown away to learn that information. But I agree, boys. I thought this was a tremendously enlightening watch. And so what I want to know before we leave here today, let's manifest a rating for The Secret. What did we say? Any takers?
Yeah, I'm going to give this 3 out of 3 gratitude rocks. Sold at $10 a piece. I didn't write down the name of this guy, but he told a story about how he was standing near a guy from Africa, just the continent of Africa.
I love Africa.
who noticed that he was playing with a stone in his pocket, and he said, "What is that stone?" And he said, "This is my gratitude rock." And the guy was like, "Interesting, gratitude rock." And then he went back to his hometown. He said that his his nephew had become very ill. And he wrote to this guy and he said, "Can you please send me 3 gratitude rocks?"
Yeah.
Very funny that he like came up with that. And I'm like, this kid's going to need 3 gratitude rocks.
This is a 3-rock case.
Yeah. So the guy went down to his river in like North Carolina or something and found 3 nice rocks and sent it to his friend overseas. And the guy wrote back saying that his nephew had started getting better. And it was not because of the rocks. It was because the guy sold those rocks and hundreds of others similar to them for $10 a piece to pay for his nephew's medical bills.
Yeah.
Which is like amazing that they're like, wow, what a magnificent story. And it's literally a guy who is selling people rocks for $10.
He's selling people dirt.
He is selling people dirt to save his nephew's life. But, like, this is the most absurd fucking.
But he also needed.
It's like, I'm out of snake oil. What am I gonna do?
Yeah,
I love that But it's funny because it's not even that he just like. But the element of magic to the story is that he didn't come to that conclusion that he could just sell people dirt to pay for his nephew's medical bills until a white American man mailed him 3 rocks in the mail.
It is a black man from Africa, and he is being taught how to grift by a. Literally almost as white as you can get. This guy is like completely bald, very white.
A powder ass looking, powder looking motherfucker.
Yeah, colonial grifting. Really amazing stuff. Also, real quick, the secret app I just noticed is not called the secret app. It's called the Super App, and it just has the secret logo. And I sent you guys a couple of the little positivity memes they are sending out on May 19th and May 20th. They have posted these memes that are like Christmas memes about being grateful in the middle of May. They're sending out Christmas
in July
stuff.
is coming up.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, what the fuck?
You know, I was hoping you would send me these so I wouldn't have to get the app for myself. Coincidence?
There you go. I'll send you one more. It's impossible to feel sad or have any negative feeling when you're feeling grateful.
I like a mix of goofy fonts. It's like a loose meat style meme of, are you grateful to be alive today?
Hey, every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present.
So,
wow.
True.
Wow, you should make a documentary.
This is totally keeping our phone numbers. You send.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Hey, where we go one, we go all.
Scott, do you have a?
Oh,
I
do. I loved this doxploitation movie. Very fun. Loved the editing, all the montages, all the reenactments, all of the like mind power stuff. I thought they would only do that a couple times. They do it constantly throughout. You see like a wave of energy come out of somebody's head and it goes like.
It's the feeling that really creates the attraction.
Anyway, it was awesome. So for that, I'm going to have to give this 100 negative thoughts out of 1 positive thought. Perfect score.
The golden ratio.
Very powerful. Very powerful. I also thought this was a very powerful piece. It really gave me a lot to think about. And I also do believe that I said this on our episode with Ember when I was like really like I watched it the second time this time. So I was like more openly consuming its message. On the episode with Ember, I remember screaming about how this was like the most pagan thing I'd ever seen. And it was the source of all mental illness in the world, which I still think is true, but I was expecting it this time. So I'm not like as caught off guard. Let's see. I'm going to have to give this 3 out of 3 women who I am dating at the same damn time. At the same damn time. Listen, call me Robert Altman the way I'm keeping 3 women, okay? A perfect score if you ask me. I also just looking through my notes, random things. I remember I think the chicken soup guy, I can't remember, but I wrote down this quote independently. He said, "I have a wife to die for." That was when he was talking about how blessed his life is. He's like, I live in a $4.5 million mansion. I have a wife to die for. Just like that phrase just will rattle around in my mind. But yeah, perfect documentary in every single way.
Yeah.
I'm glad it was the message that we were supposed to receive together.
Apparently at one point in this, Bob Proctor says, I have been studying me for 44 years.
Yeah.
I want to kiss myself.
Yes, I had totally remembered that this time.
Was he supposed to be 44 years old?
No, that's a really good point. Now, I guess when did he decided that he was going to start studying himself?
Oh, okay.
Stop studying yourself. Stop studying yourself.
Nerd.
Well, I've got to say, I had a great time manifesting that episode with the two of you, and we're very grateful that we manifested every single person who manifested us by listening to this episode. Who manifested whom? That's what I want to know. If this is your first time manifesting us, why don't you go to boysbiblestudy.com and get links to all of our free episodes. That's just energy we put out in the world because we know we get back 100-fold. But if you really want to change things with the power of positive thought, why don't you project $5 per month at us at patreon.com/boysbiblestudy, because you will unlock our secrets of bi-monthly bonus episodes where we hide all of our secret arcane knowledge. And special thank you, of course, to the talking heads in our the documentary of our life. I'm doing my best here, guys. Our patrons at the $20 tier. Thank you very much to Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Kara, and Rhett. We consider you part of the elite cabal of people who know the secret, and we're very grateful to you. And our outro music, of course, as always, "Oh My God" by Mary. So from all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-hosts, Scott and Julian, our friends, Bob Proctor, James Arthur Ray, Lisa Nichols, we would like to say, peace be with you.
Also with you.
And also with you. And also with you. And also with you.
I want more Patreon subscribers.
I want more Patreon subscribers. I want more Patreon.
Thank you for
Thank you for this. The
Thank you
Patreon.
for Patreon subscribers.
Thank you for the Patreon subscribers.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take